Okay, hi everybody. My name is Suzanne Grossman. For those who don't know me, I direct career services here at the Marxe School. I'm here with our assistant director, Marxe Career Services, Samantha Bruno, and our faculty member, Marco DeSena, who helps us with this Excelsior process, which we'll explain more. And we're very happy to have a variety of Marxe alumni here today to talk about the New York State Excelsior Service Fellowship. This is a program which is unique in that Baruch and the Marxe School has a certain number of spots. And so we do an internal process. So it's a program that has school partners that have been chosen by the Excelsior Fellowship to work with. So we've been working with the fellowship for a number of years, and there's many alumni who have now completed this 2-year post-graduation fellowship, postmaster's fellowship. So we're happy to have them here with some of them current. These ones are all current fellows. Sometimes I have past fellows come, and there are plenty of people who are happy to talk to you. But today's fellows, I'm going to have introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their, say their name, what agency you're working with. Are you in New York City or are you in Albany? And maybe like a sentence or two, very brief, about what you're working on at your agency for your fellowship. So let me start just in no particular order, just on my screen with Joanna Green. Take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Green. I'm a first-year fellow based in New York City. I work with the State Department of Health Office of Drug User Health Harm Reduction Unit. It's kind of a mouthful. I work specifically on women and pregnant and parenting people who use drugs, work group that presents monthly, and I also manage contracts with syringe exchange programs.
Thank you. Gina Masari.
Oh yeah, thanks, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. I'm Gina. I am a second-year fellow located in Albany, and I'm working at the Justice Center for the Protection of People with Special Needs. When I started the fellowship, I was in the Project and Performance Management Unit, so really focused a lot on kind of process improvements, doing a lot with like lean and agile process, to make things more efficient here at the agency. And then about a year ago, my direct supervisor, she actually became director of a new unit called the Business Analytics Unit. And I was lucky enough to join her in starting this new unit. So in business analytics, we're pretty much trying to get a new data analytics program up and running at this agency. Getting a culture of using data to inform decision making. So I've had a lot of opportunity doing workshops on key performance indicators, trying to get the buy-in from the units here at this agency, and doing different ad hoc data analytics request projects.
Great. Thank you. Fatima Ducour, if I'm saying that right.
Yes, pretty close. Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Fatima Ducour. I am based in New York, and I work with the New York State Division of Home and Community Renewal. I work in the Finance and Development Unit, and we are looking here, we look at what housing, affordable housing specifically for multifamily within New York City and the rest of the state, financing aspect of it, underwriting and looking at how much the project is going to cost, but also the development side, which looks at what projects are potentially feasible for it to make it to the pipeline.
Great, thank you. And Giselle Guerrero.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I have headphones on. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, great. So good afternoon. As you can see, I work for the MTA. So I'm a first year fellow at the MTA, and currently I am under the Diversity and Inclusion Tower, which is DDRC, which is the Department of Diversity and Civil Rights. So currently I'm working on actually creating a mentor-mentee program, which is like, it would be like the first one that they have at least under our umbrella for our particular unit, which is the DNI Tower. And in addition to that, I've also been trying to make an effort to do more policy work because that's where my interests are. So I'm just trying to find like a good balance and speak to my supervisor in regards to like policy, but also creation of like initiatives and ideas and things of that sort, and really providing support for our employee resource groups, which we have 9 at the MTA. It's a lot of experience because it's all of the MTA, so it's different agencies and things of that sort. So that's what I'm working on.
Great, thank you. My next question is about the fellowship itself. You know, tell us more about your experience. So most of you, 3 out of the 4 of you are in your first year of the fellowship. Gina, you're in your second year of the fellowship. What has been your experience so far? And you could answer that in different ways, whether that's about your actual work experience, the projects you're working on in your agency, or it could be the things that the fellowship offers. However you want to answer it, the extras that the fellowship offers, being part of the fellowship. What does it mean to be a fellow when everyone else around you is not a fellow in your office? However you want to answer it. So what's your experience been with the fellowship? And I'll let Giselle, do you want to go first?
Yes, I'll go first. So we're at the MTA. It's 5 of us, 5 different fellows. And for the MTA, it is different. So the other fellows who were there the first day in Albany, we went through everything, and then they said, but this doesn't apply to people in the MTA. So just do be aware if you are coming to the MTA, there are certain things that we do receive, but when certain things occur, it doesn't also mean that the MTA is one of them, one of the people. A perfect example is our insurance kicked in faster. So there are like logistic things that people might not be aware of, and it's not a positive or a negative. It's just like what works for you. At the beginning of the fellowship, I would say, at least from my personal experience and some of the other fellows at the MTA, it takes some initiative. Like you have to be, I think, very honest and open about what you want and transparent. And for me, I wanted a project. Like I wanted an actual diversity project. So I would meet with my boss on one-on-ones, and I would try to like see what was needed. And then when something came up, I said, you know, I can spearhead this. So you do have to be able and be comfortable with speaking up for yourself and just thinking about what exactly would you like to see, observing, and then I would say get comfortable enough to see where the need is, and then, you know, spearhead that need that you're seeing that lack of, because if not, then you're gonna just be floating. And what you want from this experience, from this 2-year fellowship, is experience. You want hands-on experience, and because you are a fellow, you can use that. Like you can say, you know, I saw this, you know, I'm an Excelsior Fellow. I really would like to spearhead this, and can I join this meeting and things of that sort. So you have to be the kind of person that is willing to put in that work, because if not, then you won't really have experience to show for at the end of your 2 years. Also, I'm based in New York City. I know you asked that and I didn't answer it. But there are no other fellows. Some people don't know what a fellow is. They think we're interns. So I do have to explain, I'm not an intern, I'm a fellow, there's a difference. Things like that. But I would say a lot of people are very friendly. You just have to gear it towards what are your goals.
That's great. Thanks so much. Does anyone want to piggyback off that or add to that? Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, I could jump in. Yeah, I agree with Giselle. Definitely want to, take advantage of being a fellow and, reach out to people, network. I've found it really helpful, even just, sending out emails to someone that is working in my agency in a unit that I'm not in and explaining, hey, I'm a fellow, I'm here for this amount of time. I'd really like to pick your brain and learn more about what your unit's doing, just to kind of enhance networking opportunities. I feel like in my placement, I really lucked out in that my direct supervisor, who now is the director of this new unit we're in, really, was excited to have a fellow, really sees me as, a full-time employee, is really eager to get my perspective on things as someone new to the agency. A lot of people at my agency have been there, since the inception of the agency. So having kind of someone come in with fresh eyes, with a new take, they've been really appreciative of that and hearing kind of my thoughts on things. I also have lucked out that my agency, is really open to if I find different training opportunities I'm interested in, or even different certifications I'm interested in working towards. They've been very supportive in, sometimes financially backing those, or, connecting me with people who, did study for project management exams or did study for agile exams. So that's been something that's that I've been trying to take advantage of as a fellow as well.
Great. Joanna or Fatima?
Sure. I can piggyback off that and say that generally when people hear you're a fellow, they want to help you and they want you to, they know you're there to learn and grow, and that you're generally in the beginning of your career. And they take note of that, and they will take you under their wing if you show initiative. And I think to talk a little about what Giselle said as well, in terms of like, you need to learn the bureaucracy of the state and the not necessarily only the hierarchy, but the general structure of your organization can be really helpful in terms of navigating everything from how to get a stapler or this headset, which took me some time, to getting all of your benefits in order and that kind of thing. But I've had an extremely positive experience in terms of my supervisor and my team. They've been really welcoming. I don't think you can say this about every organization or team in the state, but they're very kind of like a familial team, in that everyone gets along really well, and everyone's valued in what they think and what they say, and it's been great so far. So yeah.
Fatima?
Yeah, my experience was a little different in the sense that when I started my fellowship, there was a lot of high profile projects that I was put on right away, and which was amazing because it gave me an opportunity to not only learn but to also showcase some of my skills. And it's been amazing. I agree with everyone about taking initiative. I never say that I don't know how to do something. I just go figure it out. And so I've been involved in projects where, for example, one that stand up to me was to look at 3 potential development sites in Saratoga Springs and to figure out which one would be potentially a good one for us to finance. And I had to do mapping, which is something I've never learned before. And Google and YouTube are great tools, And I suggest that you use them, and definitely reading a lot. I read a lot about the industry. That's one of the things that I asked if I can have reading material. I have, I'm already, I'm not a first year or a first year career. This is a career change for me. So even though I have work experience, this is a completely different industry. Learning, it was a big learning curve, but I'm really happy that I did it. And when it came time to look at my projects, I took it very seriously, and I made sure that I went above and beyond. I didn't, if somebody said, hey, look into a broadband initiative, I actually took it a step further and did a whole deck, like a full-blown presentation about my research, what I've done. And sometimes they're like, oh, well, we want you to present it to the team. And definitely, as everyone has said, take initiatives and looking to getting involved in different projects.
Thank you. Yeah, I was hoping you'd mention about being a career changer, because some people are career changers. And for most, I think most, if not all, I know Giselle, you were working in city government before, but this is a state, you would be placed in a state, New York State agency. So for a lot of fellows, this is their first time ever working in government, or they haven't worked in for New York State government yet. I'm going to paste in the chat, and I can share this later too, but what Robin, there's another fellow in Albany who couldn't be here at the last minute. So I'm pasting in the chat her notes. And you'll see a few things there. One of the things she says is she's loving Albany. She doesn't have a car yet. And she has a walk-in closet, washer, dryer, and pays $1,000 less in rent. And I was wondering, Gina, if you could talk just about living in Albany and making that move. And I'll say that there are some years where all the placements are in Albany. Last year, we had a lot of New York City placements, and we can't always decide. And so I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind, that the candidates that Baruch wants are the ones who are the most flexible on either living in Albany or New York City. But we know that some people, that's just not an option. And so we're trying to figure out this year how to put some people in the mix who might be New York only. But Gina, tell us about Albany.
Yeah, for sure. So I do have to say, I definitely do miss a lot about the city. Don't get me wrong, but as Suzanne was saying, that Robin alluded to, the money goes a lot farther up in Albany. Definitely a lot nicer apartment I'm in. Yeah, I've got the washer dryer now and a dishwasher, which has been really a game changer. I'm not gonna lie. I am actually living in Troy, New York, which is across the river from Albany. You know, it's kind of funny, when I started working at the office up here, when I told people I was living in Troy, they're like, oh, you're in the city. And I was like, kind of, yeah, I guess, for up here. So Troy's, people will call it like the Brooklyn of the Capital Region, which for us New Yorkers is not really accurate, but it does have like kind of a little quirky, you know, artsy downtown kind of vibe. And I actually ended up picking that. I was really looking for apartments in Albany, but my placement, I'm not working at Empire Plaza, where a lot of the placements are. I'm actually working, my agency is in Delmar, which is like right next to Albany, but we're kind of like our own building, a little removed from things. Because originally I was thinking, oh, maybe I can find an apartment that I can, you know, walk to work at Empire Plaza. But then when I realized where I was going to be, that kind of opened up where I was looking. And I moved up here with my boyfriend, and we're sharing a car. He works like fully remote. So driving again has been a little bit, you know, not stressful, but oh man, I am not a huge fan of driving, but it's okay. I've gotten back in the swing of it. Otherwise, my life in Albany has me doing a lot more kind of like outdoorsy things, which has been really fun. Like hiking, all of a sudden we're hiking up here, and we started snowboarding, which I'm very, very bad, but it's actually super fun and something that a lot of people up here do because there's mountains that are like 40 minutes away. So that's kind of how you get through the winter. But otherwise, yeah, where I'm at in Troy, I'm pretty near the downtown area. I could still walk to, you know, restaurants, like music venues, things like that, which has been good. I wanted to be able to still have like the option of like walking to places and ditching the car when I can. But yeah, I'm, you know, if anyone has any other specific Albany questions, I'm happy to answer those. Or if, you know, you get accepted and then are trying to figure out how to start looking for apartments. I've been there and I would be happy to talk to anybody about that.
Great. Yeah, and I think if talking about like stretching the funds, if you didn't see it in that document, the salaries this year are $65,000 a year if you have 0 to 3 years of work experience, and then $70,000 if you have 3 or more. I think I'm getting that right. 65 and 70, these sort of 2 tiers. And there's a really nice Albany alumni community from the Marxe School. And there's certainly other fellows in Albany as well. The relevant work experience or just any work experience, I'd have to check on that. I think it's, yeah, I have to check on the nuance of that. I do encourage anyone here, if you did not attend a general info session from the fellowship, they've been having them, we've been advertising them. That's going to be different than this one that's very Marxe specific with alumni. There's one more left that is on January 18th at 5 o'clock, and that you'll hear directly from the fellowship leadership. It's not an RSVP link, it's kind of just a link you go into on the day of. So we can send that around too when we do follow up. So there were some questions in the chat, and I was going to try to combine them all because they're kind of all interrelated. There's questions around someone sort of like, I think if you all can see them, I'm not sure, but a couple of people worked in nonprofit and making that shift to government or sort of the bureaucracy. How do you the challenges of like understanding what it's like? Yeah, is that a difficult transition? Is the government workload a lot? And similarly, can you speak to the work-life balance? And you know, how are your specific departments? Are they how are they proponents of work-life balance or not? Who wants to?
I can speak to that.
Sure.
I have most of my work experience prior to the state has been in the nonprofit field, and I find nonprofit work, you can really, I mean, the work I'm doing, obviously you can burn out really quickly just by the nature of, you know, drug user health. But I find people burn out in the nonprofit world because there isn't a work-life balance, or it's not delineated as much. Here it's kind of like they expect you to come in 9 to 5 or whatever hours you can work out with your supervisor, depending on how flexible your supervisor is. My supervisor is extremely flexible about that. She kind of is like, you know, as long as you get your work done and you're in the office 5 days a pay period, we're all good. So I think which is not always the case with everyone. I want to warn people that I am, you know, lucky in that sense. The work-life balance for me is a lot better. I feel comfortable putting down my pen or my laptop at the end of at 5 o'clock and just going home, and I don't worry about my projects until I get back into the office the next day. And it is a very different feeling from always being like, oh, is there going to be, if I want to go on vacation, is someone going to be there to like cover my work or not? So That's been my experience, at least.
I can add a little bit to that. At my agency, it's still a hybrid schedule. So it's 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. And everyone actually has a different work schedule. So some people are 9 to 5, some people are 10 to 6, I don't know, 11 to whatever. So it's very flexible, and they'll ask you, are you a morning person? Because if you're not, you can come a little bit later so that you can stay. So that's really amazing. I prefer to come in early, just because of the way my schedule is. I just like to get it done and try to get out of here by 5 o'clock. I've had to stay, or I chose to stay a couple of times, but it wasn't a requirement. I just wanted to just finish something up, and but generally, I don't think it would be a big transition. I worked in city government and I work for nonprofit. I just think that once you're organized, I was never in a situation where I had to turn something around in 24 hours. So you get to prioritize and make sure that you just get your work done. And I don't think it would be a big transition.
Gina or Giselle, any comments on?
I had a comment prior. I know your Albany question. Also, they do like happy hours. And it's the only time I'm on New York City fellow at New York City. But they have like events, like, because they do understand to it. So they have events, particularly in Albany, like they'll do like a weekly happy hour. So you don't have to be concerned about like the community, because they're engaging and they're also very friendly, like other fellows. Like we're all in the same like area, in the same space, and we do have personal development every other month. So it is something that they're trying to build community and teamwork so that you have the support of each other. And I think that's a really important component of it as well. In addition, I agree with what Fatima, I think, said. You decide. Like I also have, I get to work one day telework, that's what they call it. And that day you choose it, like my boss let me choose it, and my schedule is actually 7:30 to 4. We work 7.5 hours. For the city, I only used to work 7 hours. So she lets you decide like what schedule you prefer. I'm a morning person, so I just like, I like to get it in and out. And then you decide, like tomorrow I have a really big event, but I'll speak to her in regards to like coming in later because the event's gonna end later. But yeah, I would think communication is key. And you set your own boundaries. Like I leave at 4. Like I choose to leave at 4, so I leave at 4. But if there's something I want to stay working on, then I'll work on it. That's my decision. But I've never been told like you have to stay at. I don't think that occurs. I don't, at least not in my experience. So
I just want to add on that there's no overtime for fellows. So you only gain something by working overtime if it'll put your mind at ease and you'll get what you need done when it's done. Like there's no point in overworking yourself, which is something that I felt the need to do when I was in the nonprofit world.
For us, there is at the MTA, we can have overtime actually. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like the MTA is different, but the others that we were under the same impression. So don't worry, we didn't find out until like a week ago. So that's what I'm saying. Like, ask these questions because I was told the same thing, and then one of our fellows actually, she's working on a special redesign project, and she has to go to board meetings. And she was informed, yes, we do have, we can get overtime if that's something you would like. So, just ask the questions. But yes, usually, I forgot your name. We as fellows are not entitled to overtime, but the MTA is different. So.
I wanted to ask Gina, because you're a second-year fellow, and one of the things about the fellowship is that a job at your own agency is not guaranteed. And so I've seen many fellows go on the job market, and some of them get hired and some of them don't. And I'm wondering, what does the fellowship office provide for support in your second year as your fellowship is starting to wind down?
Yeah, so this summer, I want to say, or like August, how someone was talking about, we have the professional development sessions every other month. And the first one for kind of our second year into the fellowship was really like getting down to, okay, now's the time to be planning like what you're going to be doing after the fellowship ends. And the whole session that day was, looking over resumes, talking about civil service exams, networking with our other fellows about, what they were thinking, having kind of deeper conversations about that. And, they're really honing in on, now's the time to, you're a fellow, as we were saying, networking. Now's a good time to be reaching out to other agencies you might be interested in working in, making connections, meeting people for coffee. I've been fortunate that at my agency, my director has, also this summer, like sat me down to talk about kind of what am I thinking, letting me know if I were interested in staying kind of like options that we have, like what kind of titles I could move into. And, for certain titles, even things that maybe I don't have on my resume yet, certifications or things that if I were to get those, I could fit into, this grade category, which, I don't know if everyone's lucky enough to have like a great director, supervisor like that. But I thought that was really cool. And I really appreciated them being so transparent with me about kind of what they were thinking as I start, kind of trying to decide what I want to do next. Also how Giselle was alluding to kind of the community of fellows that you meet. It's definitely a topic that people are always, picking each other's brains about, like, hey, did you see, this agency, they have like these grade levels, these kind of seem like things that might be good for us fellows. Our group, we have a WhatsApp chat and people are always kind of posting jobs they heard about, or, wondering if anyone could make an introduction for someone at their agency. But yeah, I think the fellowship does a good job of really hammering home, like, okay, a year out, you really want to start kind of planning your next move, and let's talk about how you can do that. So that's been helpful.
Great. There's a couple people interested in the benefits. Are they the same as regular state employees, or is there any differences?
So I'll tell you what has happened with the health benefits and the so as like I said, that the MTA things are different. The other non-MTA fellows, I think, had to wait, would I say almost a month to get paid? Am I right on that, ladies? I'm not sure. We actually got paid faster than everyone else. That was that I like to be honest, open and transparent. I do, because I think that's very important, especially if you're graduating in May. You're probably not gonna get paid, I think, depending on the pay cycle, was like maybe till October or the end of September, if I remember correctly. At the MTA, we actually got paid sooner. All the other state fellows, they got paid later. Insurance, I think it didn't kick in until October. That was like a source of concern for a lot of the fellows, just obviously being that they didn't have a job previously, some of them, and they did just graduate. Those are two things to be mindful of. I think that it's very important. I think health insurance is very important. Obviously, money is very important. So that's something to be aware of, that gap. I work, like Suzanne said, I worked for the city. So I knew that there was gonna be a gap in pay, and my insurance, I actually just quit like a couple days before I started my state work as an Excelsior Fellow. So I didn't have a gap, but other people did. So that's something to be mindful of. The MTA insurance is very good. And the other fellows could talk about their health insurance as well.
I'll talk a little bit about with my agency. There is definitely a waiting period where I think for us it was a while. I think it was something like 56 days before your health insurance kicked in. But it's good. Before here, I used to work for the city. I see a difference in the health benefits that I'm receiving now. You also, I don't know if everyone does it, but in my agency, you have like a location benefit. They give you a little bit more money because you are in New York City. And let's see what else. The package is just like any other state employee. You get to choose. I do have to say that when you're single, it's a very good deal. But when you have a family, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you have 2 or 10 people. As long as you're not single, the prices are high, in my opinion.
I want to move into talking a little bit about the admissions process, and then we can have the fellows weigh in on anything that they want to share about getting into the program and the interviews and all that. So as I said, Baruch has an internal process. I just put in the chat, for those of you who can read the chat, I know some of you are on your phone. Our internal deadline is Thursday, January 26th. And then I'm going to have Marco DeSena talk in a second, but we have an online form, which is that Google Doc. You just put your name and information for us to track. And then you'd email a personal statement. In one email, your personal statement, and Sam's going to tell us about a workshop we're doing for the first time on personal statements. Your resume, your unofficial transcript just from Baruch. We don't need undergrad. And then for the first time ever, they have cut out the letters of recommendation portion. So that makes your life easier for applicants. But they do want references, and also on a sheet of paper, a list of potential references, which I'm assuming they won't contact unless you're a finalist. And then I'll turn it over to Marco to talk about the committee, the interview committee, which I'm not on and Sam's not on. But Marco is the lead of that committee who reviews the applications. Marco, thoughts on the process and anything you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here and thanks for putting this on. I'm Marco DeSena. I'm a lecturer at the school, and also I'm the chair of the selection committee. So, as Suzanne was just mentioning, there is an application process. It's a pretty simple application process. It's not an easy one, but it is simple and straightforward. This year, they did do away with the recommendation letters. So you're a part of this. What is required of you is a personal statement, a transcript, and your resume. So a statement of purpose, a transcript, and a resume. We're not looking for any one thing. We are looking for the best candidates for this program. And so the best way to think about this is to, and really this general advice, you can apply it to, this is advice that I would give for any program or any job you're going to that you care about, that you want, that you value. Think about this as your application, as these 3 materials, the transcript, the resume, and the statement of purpose, as working together for this program. So nothing that you use for this, you should use for other programs you're applying to, which means you should be thoughtful and intentional about your resume and what you put in there, the words you use, how you organize it, about your statement of purpose, right? What you include there. And really that's just a sort of, it's not like a homework assignment or specific, that's a sort of relatively short. I believe it's, Suzanne, correct me if I'm wrong, under 1,000 words, 750 words, right?
Yeah.
And so you could do a lot with that. It's not a ton, but you could do a lot with that, but be mindful that it's 750 words, right? So in that, you're essentially trying to sell yourself for why you're right for the program and why the program is right for you. And so you should think about these as and start early, give yourself time to have other people read and you read and reread and read over and give some time and then read it again, to think about how these work together, how they present, how they market you as one of the best candidates for the New York State Excelsior Fellows program, right? And so a totally full comprehension, understanding of what is the Fellows program, right? So if you're unclear about that and you're applying to great programs or jobs or bridge fellowship programs like this one, something that you think would be good for you for your job, great opportunities, great experience, exposure, networking with the cohort model and the other supervisors, all this stuff. Learn about the program from obviously this, but maybe talking to people or reading about it and whatnot, and apply to that program. I say this because we do get a lot of applications that are general, that could be for look like you're applying to other fellowship programs or other jobs, and that's not the best way to put yourself forward for this one. So when we're looking at candidates, we're looking for well-rounded candidates. We're looking for and I'm not the great decider. This is a committee. And we all look at it individually and we talk about the candidates as a committee, as a group. And so what I can say, what I'm looking for, and when we have our discussions, again, we're looking for who would make the best fellow. And that means who wants this program, who's thoughtful about New York State, about state government, about this as a stepping stone or as a launching pad. Think about how this would fit into your bigger plans, how you might use this, what you want to get out of a state government fellowship program, what issues are of interest to you. Not that you're guaranteed to work on those, but if you have experience in, with, or passionate about, stuff that you've done, either school-related, work-related, volunteer-related, community-related, so on and so forth. All of this is going to hopefully present you as the best candidate for the fellowship program. Remember that the fellowship program is a job, right? A name is a name, a title is a title. You could call these things lots of things. This is a fellowship. Someone asked, how does a fellowship differ than an internship? An internship is again, people can call these things or explain them differently, but internship is in school, right? It's generally seen as kind of like an apprentice, right? An intern, you're learning, you're doing a little bit, you're being exposed. When you're a fellow, as fellows will tell you here, you're working, you're an employee. And sure, there will be maybe some hand holding. There hopefully will be some teaching and learning going on and professional development. And you're not just a regular state employee, you're a fellow, you're in this program, but you're an employee. Make no mistake about that. You're part of a team, you're part of a department. And so we're not looking for people who make the best interns or best students. We're looking for applicants who would make really good employees, who want this program, who can see how this would fit as part of their overall plan. So short-term and long-term, and who can articulate that, right? So of course, within that, communication skills are vital. You have to be able to use these marketing materials and make them work for you. Your application material, your statement of purpose, resume, and transcript. If you progress to the next stage, there's an interview component. So your writing is really important. And believe me when I tell you, not only as a teacher here, but also reading these, writing matters. You should treat these with the importance that you would a job you really want. So making sure that it's not only the content of what you write and what you include in your resume and in your statement of purpose is specific and relevant, but also that it's well written, that it's free of errors and these kinds of things. So this is not a highly specific application. It's a specific field, state government, but it's more of a sort of generalized application. So there's some room for you to showcase what you bring to the table, and I suggest you use that. I have a couple things here. I'm going on way too long, but the one thing I do want to mention, a pet peeve of mine personally, and since I'm given this time, I guess I'll use it, is when a statement of purpose reads, when we could kind of think it reads like a paper, or as a sort of general idea that you think government is good, or really government is really powerful. It can do a lot of good. No, this, you're very limited. You have 750 words to sell yourself, right? About why you for them and why this for you. And so make sure you use every word of that. Make sure it speaks to your sort of vision of where this would fit in and how you would use this and why they would benefit from having you as a fellow. So intentional, deliberate, and thoughtful is what I would say for this. Thanks.
Thank you, Marco. And I should clarify that Baruch has something like 4 spots, 4 nominees. Though what happens is, like this past year, we had 6 fellows. So there's sort of the official process, and then there's these, last minute extra fellowships came up and we need candidates. But do any of the so basically, like, if you do a Baruch interview, which is really brief, 15-minute interview, you will get past, if you're chosen as one of our finalists, you're not officially a fellow. You have to go through the fellowships process. Most of our fellows moved through that process just fine. But do any of the current fellows want to say something about the process when they got moved, or anything about the process itself?
Before you do that, I'm sorry, can I just take just one more 30 seconds? I just want to say, I had another thing written down here that I forgot to mention about this as a program. This is a program. This is the Fellows program, right? And you're a part of a cohort, but everybody will have a different experience. Some of you will have similar experiences to past fellows because you might be placed within the same, a supervisor may have had a fellow before, and so it'll be a similar experience. But outside of the shared time, the time that you have together, of any seminars or professional development, orientation stuff with cohort, when you're in your department and with your supervisor, what you work on, the projects you work on, how they view you, right? I did years ago, God, decades ago now, I was a New York City Urban Fellow, which is a sort of city version of the state program, modeled on it. The state one was modeled on the city, and our fellowships varied widely. Some of the fellows were glorified interns. Some were, like I was, just another employee. A 4-person team. I was one of the 4. And that's what I wanted. I want to be treated like any other employee. So no one experience is going to be exactly what yours could be, just because of that aspect that we're human beings and everybody's different and people manage differently and departments are differently, times different, context is different. And so that's the important thing to realize that, yeah, this is a program, but it's also a 2-year job within a department with supervisors and coworkers and stuff like that. So that's the only thing. Keep that in mind as you're listening to all this, as you're thinking about the experience. Thanks. Sorry, I will shut up, promise.
No, thank you for that note. Yeah, appreciate it. Anything about the hiring process that would have been helpful to know, maybe if you were a prospective student?
I can definitely. I'll speak quickly, and then Giselle, all you. I can just say that what helped me is to remember that this is a pipeline of young talent into New York State government work. And I have problems with ambiguity. So like not having a job description and applying to it was really difficult for me. So I think when you're writing your statement, just like demonstrate your areas of interest and your areas of strengths, your background, like what you've worked in and your transferable skills, even though you don't know what those transferable skills, like which ones they want. Try to lay them out in a coherent way, and use a personal voice, because they do actually want to know who you are, I think, and that you will fit in to the program and your placement. And yeah, that I'll let Giselle go.
Was it Giselle or both of you? Fatima?
No, it was, oh, well, I didn't see Fatima, but I think it's important, like for me, I, like Suzanne said, I wanted a career change. Like I worked for the city, and after finishing my master's at Baruch, I was very interested in diversity. Like diversity was like a non-negotiable for me. And I wanted somewhere that I can like just use this new knowledge, and my capstone was in diversity. So when towards the end, when we were given the option of the placements, I knew I wanted to work in diversity. And I think it's important to have an idea. Like you do have to be flexible, because maybe that would not have happened. But we had a lot of diversity opportunities actually for this past cohort. And I think that it's important to know what interests do you have? Like, what is something you want to do? And like I said, I came from a career change idea. And also, I think that's really important. And then I think anywhere you go, I do agree with what Marco was saying in regards to the application process. You have to be comfortable being an employee, because there might be a little bit of handholding, but not a lot. And you have to take that initiative and speak up. And if you don't have enough work, then create work. Like I'm a big believer in that. The fellowship will be what you make out of it. So that's my take. And I'm also available if anyone wants. I'm still, I think, on you can contact me on LinkedIn or any contact information. I don't mind being contacted in regards to it.
Yeah, Fatima, go ahead.
Just wanted to say a couple of things. One, definitely the personal statement. I agree with what Marco said. With me, again, it was a career change. I knew exactly that I wanted to be in housing, but my experience was that I was on the board of my Mutualama. So I really focused on that. And I did my capstone on creating a master plan for New York City. So those are the highlights that I have done. And I did not want to apply to any other place, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I'm grateful that they were able to see that my interest, and it aligned with some of my experience, my real world experience that I can bring into the work. And just knowing a little bit about financing, because we were able to make big decisions on a capital improvement project, which was $89 million. So making those decisions and bringing that into my personal statement was, I think, what was helpful. And the interview process for me after Baruch nominated, then I went to Kara, who is the director of the Excelsior Fellows. And after that, I then had an interview with the VP and the senior vice president of finance and the development team here. And after that, it was smooth sailing from there. And once I got the position, then started the process. So I would say it was fairly quickly. I didn't have to wait for a long time to figure out if I had the position.
Yeah, I mean, the process has changed a little bit, where they are now sending around placements, but not for a while. So sometime in like April or so, the fellowship folks, Kara Pangburn, who Fatima mentioned, will have this list of placements. And so that didn't used to be the case. And so they're kind of wanting to know a little bit better these days, like the match, like which placements do you see yourself for? But when you apply at Baruch in January this month, that's that ambiguity that Joanna talked about. Like you're applying, not knowing at all the possible placements. And so you kind of have to be comfortable with that, knowing that more information is coming. You'll if you keep going through the process, you'll get an offer, and you'll interview with an agency, and then even at that point, you don't have to say yes. I mean, they're hoping and we're hoping as a school that you do say yes, but you're not locked in. So there's that. I did want to say something really important about Albany versus New York City. This year, I've decided to allow, and I talked to Marco about this, people who will indicate on the application form that they only want New York City. Whereas in the past, I was having people sign like, I understand that I am open to moving to Albany if I'm going to apply, because we didn't want people applying who said they only wanted New York City. But what I found the past few years, there have been a lot of New York City placements, and the fellowship folks come to us and say, hey, do you have anybody else? And then we're kind of scrambling. And I want to avoid us scrambling for candidates outside of our original pool. But it may mean that those candidates are maybe not first priority candidates, because first priority truly has to be people who are open to Albany and New York, if only because we don't know the placements yet, and the fellowship folks may not give us additional spots. So there's a little bit of it, going to be a little bit of ambiguity on our part this year, but I'm hoping it's good. And so that if you're left hanging for a little while, and by all means continue your regular job search, but we found that some people are getting in this fellowship a little bit more last minute, and things have turned out really well. So we're just trying to circumvent to make it a little more streamlined and have you apply. So I wanted to say that from the outset. So you'll see it.
Could I add real quick to that?
Yeah.
So as Suzanne just mentioned, and we've kind of gone through a few, I don't want to say no year has been the same, but in a way, this is a really interesting, it's a fascinating program. How it started, how it grew, where it is now. The one constant has been the fellow, right? The fellow, their 2-year experience. And so, yes, be flexible, have an open mind when you're applying to this program. At the end of the day, you should not have the mindset that you're applying to, I don't know, work at the MTA in New York City or something like that, right? You might want to, but that's not the best applicant, right? The best applicant, it understands that they're applying to a state government executive fellowship program. Will they be placed in a state department or agency, likely in Albany, but possibly in New York City. And for 2 years, they're going to work in a department and for a supervisor and gain work experience that you likely could not get on your own outside of this program. It might not be the best place. Maybe a fellow has a placement that you want, or maybe a past fellow has a placement that you would love, but they're no longer taking place. All of that, if you're thinking about this program and you're a good candidate for this program, you're okay with that. You might desire a couple different placements, but you're okay with where you get placed because you see it for the bigger picture, a stepping stone, an opportunity to get exposure, gain experience, to network the crap out of those 2 years, and to parlay this into either a job with the existing department or a job outside of the state. With the state outside of that department, or down in the city, as so many fellows have. right? And so the thought process shouldn't be, I really want to work on this, and that's all I want to do. It's, I really want to gain exposure and experience, have a cohort and network the crap out of these 2 years. So flexibility, having an interest is great. Having a preference is, we all do, but flexibility and understanding that what this is for 2 years, that's the best. That's the only thing. I know I'm really done, I promise.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Martha.
can I add one thing to that? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, if any of the alumni guest speakers have to go, I don't know if you all have meetings, please, feel free to do what you have to do, but if you can hang on for one more minute, thank you for that. Go ahead, Fatima.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Marco said, because I am in high-level meetings with the senior vice presidents, with the director of special services, with the chief of staff of the commissioner. If I was just, I don't know, just got a regular job, which a lot of people, not to say that that's bad, but I would have never had that opportunity. Today, I had a meeting with the senior vice president of multi-housing, who's overseeing, I don't know how many people and how many vice presidents, but we are working on a project together. So I just wanted to add that to it.
That's great. Thank you. Sam, do you want to mention about the personal statements workshop? I know you put in the chat.
Yeah, so really quickly, as we've gone through hearing about what is best to highlight in your application, personal statements. So we've partnered with the Baruch College Writing Center to have a personal statements workshop next Tuesday at 1 p.m. The Writing Center does regular scheduled personal statement workshops throughout the semester, but we've asked them to come specifically to help with the New York State Excelsior Fellowship and perhaps any other fellowships that we that you might be interested. But we're really going to prioritize this one.
Yeah, and some of that is, we've never done that before, but my office, stay out of helping students with the personal statements. So that's not something we're going to review for this program. Because we're a little too close to the process, but we will look at resumes. So if you haven't had us work on your resume or help you with your resume, we will do that piece. But the personal statements, I encourage you to use some of the other resources, including the Write This workshop that Sam mentioned. So I'm gonna stop our recording, thank everybody and stop our recording, and then I'll hang out for a couple minutes. We could say goodbye to our alums, or if they want to hang out too. But if anyone has other questions, they just, I know there's probably more things we could have talked about that we haven't, so I'll hang out for a couple minutes. But thanks, yes, please join me in thanking our wonderful alumni for being here and talking about this program. We love this program. It's so prestigious, and the school loves it. And if you become a fellow, there's press releases, there's all kinds of things good things that come your way, and you're part of like the Marxe Alumni Fellows for this program. And yeah, so we hope you'll apply. And like I said, I'll stop the recording and hang out for a couple minutes. So thanks everyone for coming.